In today's video, we're going to talk about charge-offs and write-offs. There's a lot of misconceptions that are being put out on the internet, put in videos about charge-offs and write-offs, about you shouldn't respond to a debt collector who's trying to contact you about a charge-off or write-off, trying to say that you don't owe a creditor because of a charge-off or write-off when they've chosen to do that. And these misconceptions are getting people sued, getting people with marks on their credit also that make it to where it's harder for them to be able to move forward. And we're not about doing that. And there's always loopholes to anything in life. There's certain situations that might apply to you that may not apply to someone else, and vice versa. But when it comes down to a charge-off and a write-off, I'm going to tell you the definition of it. This is the straight up definition of a charge-off and a write-off. And I'm going to tell you what the path that a debt that has been charged off or written off, the path that it can take. And then I'm going to talk about solutions on dealing with the charge-off and write-off. And this is real deal information, not from someone who has not experienced this type of stuff with dealing with charge-offs and write-offs on a personal level. So I know how it feels to deal with a charge-off and write-off and how it can hold you back from being able to move forward in your life. And then also from working with clients and having to break it to them that their situation may be different than someone else's situation, and making it clear to them, this is what you're going to have to do for your specific charge-off and write-off, because that's based off of the overall goals that you have for moving forward in your life. So first, let's start off with what a charge-off account is. A charge-off account, this is the definition. So there's no wiggle room. This is exactly what the law, what the courts, what creditors believe it is, what everyone say it is based on the definition. A charged-off account refers to a debt that a creditor has deemed unlikely to be collected. When a borrower fails to make payments on the debt for an extended period of time, typically 6 months or more, the creditor may declare that the account has as charged off. This doesn't mean that the debt is forgiven or that the borrower is no longer obligated to pay it. Instead, it signifies that the creditor considers the debt unlikely to be collected and may take actions to sell it to a collection agency or hire a collection agency to collect on it, or forgive the debt in a 1099-C. That's up to them. But they have to do this because they have to be above board about their books. They can't say that they're receiving payments from someone who is not they're not receiving payments for an extended period of time. They can't just like cook the books and say, oh, these payments are coming in. They have to be accurate about their books. So if an account has been charged off, that is it's an accounting entry stating that they've given up on collecting on that account the normal way, which is statements, monthly payments, monthly payments. Now, what is a written off account? Because there's this written off, charge off, written off, charge off. A written off account is similar to a charged off account in it represents debt that is a creditor no longer expects to be repaid. However, there is significant difference in the terminology and accounting treatment. When a creditor writes off an account, it means that they have removed the debt from their books as an asset, because they do not expect to receive payments. This does not mean that the debtor is absolved of their responsibility to pay the debt. Instead, it is an internal accounting measure for the creditor. So, charge off, taking it off the books, same type of deal. Written off is a later adjustment on, hey, these are the write-offs that we have that we are no longer expecting to be paid. Something else too that I've noticed with companies like American Express is that if an account has been charged off, they have a mechanism. They have a mechanism because remember, these companies are in the business of making money, making loans, loaning out money with credit cards, whatever way. I've noticed that dealing with American Express that they've also threw this in when we've negotiated settlements for clients, is that they would say, if your client would like to continue with the same account that was charged off, that they have a mechanism to reopen that same account, charged off account if the client does A, B, and C. And I'm pretty sure other companies are looking at doing that because until they've put it in there as a written off account, that account could still in actuality be able to be used. So it could be charged off, but written off, it's, like when the referee just does this, like it's over. Or the referee in a boxing match, this person got knocked out and they do this, that's a written off account. When it's a charged off account, they threw the flag and they're like, okay, we're going to mark it back 10 yards. Or the referee steps in and says, okay, let's give them a standing 8 count, let them recover, and then they can come back, use same account. But if it's written off, it's this. It's over. It's over. But it does not mean that you don't have to pay when it's written off. Now, let's look at where that written off account, the different path. So let's just say that written off account or that charged off account, they put on their backpack to go to school, and these are the different routes that they could take. First, they could the company, the creditor can have their own internal collection department call. And they will normally do this at the beginning when they're trying to get a hold of someone before it charges off. So they'll just call you, what's going on, send you letters, what's going on. And then they can end up hiring out a service to collect on it also. Some of the companies, they don't have anything internal to do any collections. Nothing internal other than having people call, but they're not really versed in that, and they'll hire a debt collection company to make the calls and try to collect on that debt. The next thing is that they could just outright sell the debt. And if they outright sell the debt, you know what my strategy is to get that charge off, written off, removed, or to have it put on there that it was paid for less. Because if they sell the debt, what is the word? Sell. Sell the debt. It doesn't matter if they sell it, if the debt was sold and it was not in a charge off or written off status, and they sold it, what type of mark would they put on that account? They would say sold to another creditor. If an account was a charge off or write off and they sell it to a debt collector, they are still technically selling that account. They sold the account. They cannot collect on it themselves. So that means that they sold the account for less than the face value. And it does not matter. If they sold it for less than the face value, they still must put on your credit reports that they sold the debt for less or settled the debt for less. But they should just put sold debt for less or settled debt for less, or just choose to remove it off because it's inaccurately showing on your credit reports. It is not technically just a charge off or a written off account anymore. Next thing that they could do is they could take legal action. They could take legal action and just sue you straight up, hire a law firm in your area to sue you directly for the debt. They can choose to just do it that way. Next thing they could do is they could offer a settlement. They could say, hey, you owe us $5,000. Would you be interested in settling this debt? They might come at, $5,000. They might say $4,000 because they don't want to, go too low if you got the money. And then that goes back to, opens up the door for you to be able to try to settle the debt at a lower amount so you're able to move forward. Remember at the beginning of the video, I talked about depending on your circumstances, on where you want to be, how you're trying to move forward, your ultimate goal, settlement may be the best option for you. Next thing is that they're going to report this information to the credit reporting agencies. They're going to always do that. So there's no getting around it. So during the process, so you can see that when you're going through that charge-off process and how they said you got about 6 months of no payments. Well, what do you think that creditor is going to report every month? They're going to say 30-day late, 30-day late, 30-day late, all the way until they charge it off. So you're actually getting hurt with your credit from that first missed payment all the way to that charge-off period. This is the way that the system is just put together. They're giving you time to recover. They're giving you time to maybe contact the creditor to work out a deal. But during that process of 6 months, you're tearing up your credit. You're actually tearing up your credit. So if your goal is to try to move forward, then you need to get with them before. You need to talk to them before. And you might say, well, they haven't charged it off yet. Well, even if you do a settlement with your creditors, they're going to mark it as charged off, even if you pay it less and it was less than 6 months. The process that they have to go through is they have to go through a charge-off process to be able to offer you a settlement. Now, I want to talk about some things that I've seen in other videos so we can kind of clarify some stuff. I saw a video today, I think I saw it on TikTok, and the individual said, this is what they said. They said that if you have a charged off account, that if you're trying to, like, say, buy a house and you have a charged off account, and that underwriters will not care about a charge off that they'll, or they may not care about it being a collection with a collector. This is how they said it. Let me get this in the box for you. They said that if you're trying to buy a house and say that you have a charged off account on your credit reports, and then you have a collection on your credit reports, the way that this person put it is that they would not care about the charge off on your credit reports. And that is the truth with that. But then they also said that because you never had a contract with the collection company, that they're not going to care about the collection company. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. And you already know that that is not true. This is what I want you to think about. This, when you watch my videos and you watch other people's videos, and then you put your thinking cap on and you say, what is logical and what is illogical? If you're trying to buy a house, I should have looked this up here. But hold on a second. Okay, I was going to look it up online, but this is something that everyone gets when they sign up with the credit repair shop. I give them the secrets to a guaranteed mortgage loan at the lowest rate available. And I talk about what they look for, exactly what they look for. Now, I've purchased homes for me and my family, and I've helped people get qualified for a home for themselves and their family. And I can tell you straight up, one of the number one things that get people denied for a mortgage is that they have collections that are unresolved. Now, I've had seen it where people had said in videos, well, if you have a collection on there, they're not going to care about it. They're not going to care about approving you for the mortgage. I would say to you, you need to, maybe you got to learn it the hard way, or you want to learn it the easy way. That they will not approve you. You will be set up for failure when you go through underwriting. They're going to have you at the table when you're ready to sign papers, and they're going to say, what about this? Not because they don't want to give you the loan. They make money by doing all of the stuff. Problem is that they don't want to put you into a property and then they're going to have liens all up against the property, even though the mortgage company would have the first position. This is just stuff that they don't want to do. This is stuff that they're just not going to do, and you're not going to make it through the underwriting process. So if you let's just say your goal is to buy a house and you have negative stuff on your credit reports, first thing you need to do is you need to get with the mortgage company, or if you know certain stuff, you just know that you got to deal with. But what you could do, and this is what we tell people to do because people don't always want to take our word on it, you got to have that that third-party verification, you can get a pre-approval, and then they can tell you, okay, if you take care of this. As a matter of fact, we tell people to do this. We say, unless your credit is destroyed, get a pre-approval. Or even if your credit is destroyed, get a pre-approval, and they'll tell you you can get pre-approved for your mortgage if you do this, 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 and this. And then they come to us and they say, okay, this is what we got to do. If you have collections, I guarantee that they're going to say you got to resolve those collections. You can take that to the bank. If you got collections, they're going to say you need to resolve those collections. Now, let's talk about something else that I saw in that video, is that people stated in some of their videos that if you have collections, that there is absolutely nothing that you have to worry about. Now, all you have to do, you don't have to take my word on it. You don't have to take their word on it. Maybe you have collections, and just think about the things that those collections are holding you back on. And then if you've been sued by a debt collector who has purchased your debt, or the original creditor, you know that can happen. You know that can happen. There's I could say it can happen, but you see that it's happening all over our country. So that's another thing. Be very careful when moving forward, not to try to scare anyone, but just understand that if you're steps ahead, which is sometimes you can't be, all the way ahead of a debt collector that's trying to come after you for a debt, but you can make sure that if they sending you stuff, you respond to it. If there's something that if they're suing you in court, make sure you respond to it. If they're, making threats of suing you, make sure you respond to it. So you can either be right there with them, so you can make sure that you make the right move, or you could be steps ahead if you have experience with dealing with this. But don't disregard it. Don't disregard it, because charge-offs and write-offs could end up being, moving into getting sued, or having debt collectors come after you and just placing it on your credit reports, hurting your scores and making it hard for you to be able to move forward, even if they don't sue you. The next thing that is something that can potentially happen is that if a debt collector buys if the original creditor sends your debt back, if the original creditor hires a debt collection company to collect the debt and they send it back to the original creditor, that means that the debt collector said, we're not going to be able to get anywhere with this. What do you want us to do? They just say, send it back. The next thing that could potentially happen is that they could do what's called a 1099-C cancellation of debt. This is something that the creditor chooses to do. This is not something that you force the creditor to do. There's no form for you to fill out that's from the IRS telling them to do it. So I'm making that clear. But when they understand your hardship situation, they can make a determination if they want to cancel the debt. And there are creditors, all creditors have done it, but there seems to be no real rhyme or reason behind it. Maybe it's because if you send in a consideration, letting them know your complete story, that they consider it and they say, hey, we want to, they send to the IRS and they say that we want you to consider this as income. They fill out a 1099-C cancellation of debt, send that to the IRS, and whatever amount that they had that you owe, the IRS will consider that income. Now, some people say, well, why would that work if they're going to put it on my taxes and consider it income? Because you can write it off and get a waiver. There's a waiver form that the IRS gives to you when you receive a 1099-C cancellation of debt, and you can get that waived. All you gotta do is type in IRS insolvency form and make sure that you go to the IRS, not to some offshoot site promising some type of gimmick on that income or whatever. No, just go straight to the IRS, fill that out, file it with your taxes. You are required to file that with your taxes. If you receive a 1099-C form from your original creditor, you have to file that as income. You can do the write-offs, but you're required, because the IRS is like sitting there like they're like this. You're waiting on your taxes to come in, and they already know that that company did that. They're just seeing if you are going to follow the law and file that as income. So be very careful with that. You have to file it. Doesn't mean you're going to pay any taxes on it, but you're required to file those documents. All right, so also, if you do a settlement for less, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna, if it's over $600 in the settlement, they're gonna send that to the IRS also for the remaining amount, and then you're gonna do the waiver form. That's all you got to do. All right, so I wanted to clarify charge off and write off. I think we got some clarification here that you'll be able to move forward and make decisions on how you want to either move forward with repairing your credit, or if you're looking at doing settlements. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, What Makes Us Different, so you can see my 8-point validation process that shows exactly how, step by step, how we repair credit, how we help you with getting your credit reports, how we help you by doing a review of your credit report so you don't have to worry about, what to do with the charge off, what to do with if it's a write off, what to do with the negative credit that's been sold. We take care of all of that so you don't have to worry about that. We do the review so you can know 100% what's on your credit reports, and then the step-by-step process using my 8-point validation process on how we got to deal with it. Now you might be saying, well, how long is it going to take? Long it's going to take is this is the answer to that. Number one, depending on how much stuff needs to be worked on on your credit, how much stuff needs to be worked on it. That's going to determine, how long it could take, or how short it could take. Also, the types of information that's on your credit reports, that can determine how long it's going to take. Also, there's another side to this, and this is why we tell clients that we can't put like a timeline, is that there's millions of people sending in millions of documents every month to the 3 credit reporting agencies, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And some of the times, and if you maybe have experienced this yourself, you can submit your disputes and they just say that it was verified. And so what we do is we got to make sure that it was really investigated. We got to make sure, and some of the times it could take a lot of work just to get that to be done. But rest assured, with our process, and because we're on the job, we're going to make sure that we do that over and over until we know that they've done the investigation, to allow you to be able to know the information that you get from us on which direction you need to move forward from after that. And then utilizing what we do, we don't just hold you there. Like, say for instance, an account comes back that you have to move forward with a settlement. It's went through the process with the bureaus. It's went through the process with the furnishers, because we don't just try to repair your credit through the credit reporting agencies. We also go through the furnishers who put the information on your credit reports for violations. So the bureaus are supposed to contact them for violations, but some of the times, because of all of the work, it get missed, or they just send it through with their machines and they just send it back verified. We want to also go directly to the source, and that's what we do. And then we get that information back from the source to see what would be the next move. Now, let's just say that you have to get your, you're going to have to do a settlement with some of your accounts, or you're going to have to do payments to resolve them. We will counsel you on what you need to do to work with them, if you need to do that yourself, or if you want us to do that process for you. We have a department that can do that, so we can take you all the way from A to Z through your credit repair process. Now, if you don't know what's on your credit reports, I want to invite you to go to the website, your3scores.com, to grab your TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian credit reports, because that way you could at least, at bare minimum, know what's on your credit reports. Don't you believe that at least if you know 100% 100% without any ads or anything that's trying to take your attention away from looking at exactly what is on your credit reports for all 3 credit reports, wouldn't that be beneficial to you? Of course it would, because then you would be able to know straight up what is on your credit reports, and then you can decide, make an educated decision on which way you want to move forward, if you want to repair your own credit or if you would like to have us work with you on it. Next thing is, if you have debt collectors coming after you early, one of the easiest ways to stop debt collectors is to respond to that letter that they send you. If you pay close attention to that letter is not actually a bill. It may look like it, but it's not actually a bill. It's called a dunning letter. This is where they're notifying you of the original creditor, that they're the new owner of the debt and that they're trying to contact you to see what you want to do about it. Or maybe they're contacting you on behalf of the original creditor. You have rights. Number one, that letter must be put together the right way. And I have videos stating that that letter must come from them. If they bought the debt, it has to come from them. And if they're collecting it for the original creditor, it has to still come from them. They can't use a third-party mailing service, because they would be in violation of sharing your private information with an unauthorized third party. Now, you might be saying, well, if they're hired by the original creditor and they send you that letter, isn't the original creditor sharing your information with an unauthorized third party? They could be, and that could be something that you can question when you do your response. And that is within the letter that I'm going to provide to you. It's called a cease and desist collecting activities letter, not to be confused with cease and desist contacting you, like a cease and desist contacting you. No, this is a cease and desist if they cannot give you the documentation that's within that cease and desist letter that I'm going to provide to you. And then I give you a debt validation letter to go back and forth. But basically, all you have to do is respond to what they respond to, how they respond to you from that cease and desist collecting activities letter. Now, they might just choose to not come after you. They might just choose not to come after you. And if they're coming after you for the original creditor, they might choose not to come after you because there's still going to be some requirements on information that debt collector must get. They can't just take the word of the creditor. They are required as a debt collector to verify the information that's coming from that original creditor. So that's what you'll be able to do. Now, another letter I'm going to give you in that 3-pack of letters is a statute of limitations letter. Yes, there are still creditors and debt collectors that try to come after people for debt that is past the legal statute of limitations to collect. So what is the legal statute of limitations to collect? It is different for every state. You can go to my website, thecreditrepairshop.com, in the blog, go down to the bottom, click blog, type in statute in the search bar, and you will see the statute of limitations for all 50 states. In the 4th column, if you have credit card debt that was either sold or credit card debt from an original creditor, the statute of limitations is shorter in most states. So if the debt is 1 day past the statute of limitations, which is from the statute of limitations starts from the last payment that you ever made, not from the charge-off date, not from the written-off date, from that last payment. If it's 1 day past it, they cannot legally collect on it. Now, you can have a moral obligation to pay it, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's your own personal decision. But there's a statute of limitations that they can legally take action. They cannot sue you in court. They cannot make threats to put a lien on your property. They cannot make threats to garnish your bank account. They cannot make threats to garnish your wages if it's past that legal statute of limitations. They just cannot do it. And so I give you that letter. And also, to clear up a misconception, when a debt is past legal statute of limitations, there is no debt validation that is required. You just notify them that the debt is past legal statute of limitations to collect. There is no back and forth about doing a debt validation because you have no legal requirement to pay it. Zero. Now, if you make a payment, even 1 penny, you could actually reset the debt, but they cannot trick you into doing that. So when you say, well, how can they trick you into doing it? Well, they can say, well, if you sign this document, so we can stop contacting you and we'll give you some more time to work on this debt. No, they cannot do that, because that's tricking you to reset the debt. And if you happen to be tricked into doing that, you can send them a certified letter stating that you believe that their representative tricked you into paying a debt that was past the legal statute of limitations to collect. That has happened. Now, if a debt collector calls you about a debt and they use the word time barred, we're calling about a debt that is time barred, and you have no obligation to pay this time barred debt. You got to listen to them closely, because they're required to tell you that the debt is past statute of limitations, but they don't use that word. They use time barred. If you don't know what time barred mean, you could end up getting tricked into resetting that debt. So be very careful. Links are below this video for all of those. For those 3-pack of letters, I do ask for a donation. You don't have to, but those letters can literally save you time, money, and frustration. Thank you for your time. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Share this video and post your questions and comments. It's Stephen A. Williams, President and Founder of thecreditrepairshop.com.